This is Anka doing the outline. So I just wanted to show you kind of how I do it because it's something that you could do for any type of task that you might have. So I don't take these into it, although they're worth reading over, but usually I skip down to this part right here. And remember not to worry too much about those length requirements because you're not really graded on that. You're graded on, how sufficiently you've answered the questions. So don't obsess too much about that. You have your rubrics here, which you said you've already looked at. So then I just go over to here and I make a blank Google document and I give it a name because they are easily lost, and so then I paste the rubric. Now this one is a wordy one, so actually I'm gonna do a lot of changes to the formatting that makes it easier for me to read, because personally I find this block of text with it's all kind of the same, makes it kind of hard for me to read. So I was looking for this button right here, clear formatting, and that leaves you with just text. And so I would maybe make the word essay, but it's an essay already, but basically that's the only word that you really need to focus on from there. And so then I would, I would just underline the things that need to be focused on and then what dialects and creoles are. So this is essentially about definitions. Then I'm going to put some space and an indentation here. Because this is part of A, so I don't want to confuse myself by starting a different section, but it's sort of a sub-question because you're giving a definition and then you're going into the difficulties and limitations that students may encounter when receiving assistance. So what I need to focus on here is that I'm naming difficulties and limitations, so I'm going to underline that. Oops, my cursor's being a little difficult. And then there's this important phrasing here. It's very specific. The difficulty or limitation stems from this particular fact that they don't think of themselves as learners of English. They think of English as their first language because most people think of English as just one thing. So I would get some answers into here on what is that and what are those. And then I would get into this difficulties and limitations. So I'm going to leave some space because we want to have some answers in there. And then now here's another main question. This one doesn't have any sub-questions, but I'm going to color code it like I did the other main question. So at least 2 legitimate dialects or creoles that are spoken by students in classrooms. So they actually give you such a huge list that you don't even really need to think of any, but you could possibly think of others. And so this is the whole section. So it only says identify, but I think you want to give a little sort of quote-unquote definition. If I say Hawaiian Creole and somebody says, well, what's Hawaiian Creole? I need the information on that, who it would be spoken by, what is it based on, what are its features, some quick background on it because it is listed as a separate section. So it's important when you're writing to pay attention to the numbering system, even though sometimes the numbering systems aren't as consistent as we might want them to be. They are still good signals of how to approach different sections. Next one is C. So you're going to discuss the specific features of the 2 dialects that you have chosen, and then you want to make sure that you've covered similarities and differences to standard American English. So for example, if I was talking about African American Vernacular English, I'm never quite sure why this is not capitalized. It should be. It's a mistake, I think. That is also a form of American English, right? So the similarities are a great many. There's most of the grammar is in common, most of the vocabulary is in common. So I would list those things even though they're kind of obvious, and then I would list the differences, and the differences are largely grammatical. There are some phonological differences. You will find those in your research, of course. And then here are the sub questions. So